Shalom friends, welcome to Ruth Reactions, Part 1. The holiday of Shavuot is here. It celebrates several things. Firstly, the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai. We do a lot of Torah study on Shavuot, like all day, all night. And at the same time, Shavuot is a harvest festival. It's really doing the most. One of the things that we study on Shavuot is the Book of Ruth. This Megillah is a family drama with two central female characters, Ruth and her mother-in-law, Naomi. The story centers their loyalty and devotion to each other in a time and a place where their entire socioeconomic status was defined by their relationships to men. Now, a major plot point in the story revolves around Yibum, which is a very specific type of marriage, let's just say. If a married man dies without having children, his brother then is supposed to go and marry his widow, redeeming her. Their child will carry on the name and legacy of her deceased husband. The Book of Ruth presents a quite idealized version of this marital scenario. It's got an almost fairy tale-like quality to it. But like many fairy tales or folk tales, our heroine has to go through a whole lot of tragedy and drama before she's offered her happily ever after. Our story begins once upon a time in the land of Israel. Unfortunately, there is a famine. A man named Elimelech from the city of Beit Lechem took his wife Naomi and their two sons and pieces out to the land of Moab, where apparently there were no supply chain issues and they still had food. Elimelech dies, so Naomi is a widow. Her two sons married two local Moabite women. Their names were Orpah and Ruth. But after about 10 years, Naomi's sons also die. Naomi is emotionally devastated. And since the famine seems to have ended, she's like, I am out. I'm going back. I'm done with this place. She starts heading back on the road to Beit Lechem, followed by Orpah and Ruth. Naomi tries so hard to dissuade them from following her. She says, you have been both so lovely and so kind to me, but I don't have any more sons to offer you. Go back home and find security with new husbands because honestly, apparently that's the best we can hope for in this society. Don't sacrifice your options just to follow me. And there's a lot of emotions going on. Everybody's crying. But at the same time, Orpah is like, as sad as I am to say it, points have been made. And she goes home. But our girl Ruth has a very different plan. Stay tuned for part 2. Shalom friends, welcome back to Ruth Reactions Part 2. Naomi continues to attempt to dissuade Ruth from following her. She's like, follow your sister-in-law, go back to your own people, go back to your own gods. Ruth says, stop trying to get me to leave you. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people. Your God shall be my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I shall be buried. And nothing but death will part me from you. That gets me every time. So you can't really argue with a speech like that, and Naomi knows it. Naomi and Ruth continue on to Beit Lechem. Their arrival is like the breaking news in the city. It is the hot gossip. It is the tea. Like it's at Lady Whistledown reporting from the corner levels. Everybody's like, oh my God, is that Naomi? It's Naomi. Did you see? Naomi is not in a mood for this. She says, nah, don't call me that anymore. Naomi means pleasant, and guess what? My life sucks. You should call me Mara from now on because God made my life bitter. Just chock full of misfortune, okay? So don't start with me. That is indeed one way to make a memorable entrance. Ruth and Naomi had absolutely nothing. So Ruth decides to go out and glean behind the reapers in the fields to try and get some grain for her and Naomi to eat. Naomi had a relative on Elimelech's side of the family. His name was Boaz, and he was conveniently rich. So Ruth is out here gleaning, and what a delightfully lucky plot twist. Guess who owns this land? Here he is for a meet cute. It is, obviously, Boaz. He immediately establishes himself as quality love interest material by treating the people working in his fields like human beings. Low bar, but you know. He looks over and he sees Ruth. He asks his assistant manager who she is. And he's like, oh yeah, that's Naomi's daughter-in-law. She's been here on her feet all day so she and Naomi can eat. Boaz is very impressed by both her work ethic and the way she's supporting Naomi. He tells her, stick around, don't go to any other fields. If you're thirsty, go get some of that complimentary Gatorade over there. And don't worry, the men here will not harass you, because I have instituted a no sexual harassment policy in these fields. And she bows down in gratitude and says, why are you being so nice to me? I'm not even from here. And Boaz tells Ruth it's because he knows of her reputation, that she chose to go with Naomi to take care of her and completely left her own land and family to do it. And he says to her, I hope that God rewards you because you deserve it. Stay tuned for part 3. Shalom friends, welcome back to Ruth Reactions part 3. Things have escalated rather quickly for Boaz in the falling hard department. By lunchtime, he's calling her over to eat with him and giving her extra food. During the afternoon gleaning, he makes sure all of his workers know to be super nice to her, and also, intentionally, not intentionally, let some extra grain fall so that she can glean it. She works all day and into the evening. And she takes the barley she's harvested back to Naomi, plus her leftovers from lunch. And Naomi is like, where did you glean today? Who is this nice? And Ruth is like, yeah, it's this guy, Boaz. He has a field over there. And the wheels begin to turn for Naomi. And she's like, oh, you don't say. I guess God didn't really fully abandon us after all. Naomi then explains that Boaz is actually a kinsman of Ruth's dead husband, meaning that technically he could be a redeeming kinsman who could marry Ruth, carry on her dead husband's name, and at the same time provide for them. So, as he had invited her to do throughout the rest of the barley and the wheat harvests, she's working alongside the maidservants of Boaz. Naomi has now moved into planning mode. It is time for a Bridgerton-level scheme. She tells Ruth, we really need to find a home where you can be happy and cared for. And I think we all know whose home that is. Here's the plan. Boaz will be winnowing barley on the threshing floor tonight. Now, that is not actually a euphemism, but maybe it should be. You're going to go to the threshing floor, see where he lies down, and then you're going to go over there, uncover his feet, and lie down there. Now, Ruth trusts that Naomi knows what she's talking about, and she does just what she says. In the middle of the night, though, Boaz wakes up to discover a random woman in bed with him, and he's like, who are you? And Ruth says, it's me, Ruth, your maidservant. Cover me with your robe because you are a redeeming kinsman. Boaz is flattered. He is thrilled. He's like, oh my gosh. He thanks her for not turning to a younger man, which does make me wonder about the age difference. But up until here, it's been green flags all the way. So let's just let this go. But there is a potential hiccup. There is another man with a closer familial relationship to Elimelech. Boaz knows that and says, okay, if he's going to act as a redeemer, I get it. But if he doesn't, I'm gonna. They lie down together for the night. Maybe nothing happened. Maybe something happened. But it's none of our damn business anyway. Give them some privacy. Next morning, Boaz sneaks her out, but he doesn't leave her empty-handed. He gives her more food to take home to Naomi. He's not stupid. So she gets back home, and Naomi is like... Now, when she hears about it and sees the extra food, Naomi knows exactly what is up. He is going to settle this with alacrity. Just you watch. Stay tuned for part 4. Shalom friends, welcome back to Ruth Reactions, part 4. Unsurprisingly, Naomi was not wrong. Boaz goes immediately to find that other relative. That relative is not named, so I'm going to call him Fred. And Boaz gathers Fred and the elders of the city together because guess what? Court is now in session. So Boaz is like, Fred, you know that Naomi is back, right? And she needs to sell her ancestral property that she got from Elimelech. So if you want the land, technically, you do have first dibs. And Fred's like, yeah, totally, I'll take that, duh. Boaz goes, okay, but just FYI, you realize that with that comes the obligation to marry Naomi's daughter-in-law, Ruth, right? So she can perpetuate the name of her dead husband? And if you have a son with her, that land will revert to him. Now, are you sure? And Fred's like, actually, that seems like a bit much, so I'm not going to sign up for that. And Boaz is like, oh, well, I guess I'll have to do it. So they go ahead and validate this exchange by handing over a sandal. That is a thing. Boaz makes totally sure that everybody knows that they just witnessed him acquiring all of Elimelech's things, including technically Ruth. And everybody's like, yes, amazing. Love that for you. I know this probably won't be a shock to you, but Boaz and Ruth get married. And they have a baby, Mazel Tov. And all the women say to Naomi, wow, looks like you were blessed after all. Your grandson is the son of your daughter-in-law who is worth 7 sons. Ruth's son had a son, and his son had a son, and his son was King David. What a happily ever after, right? There are several important takeaways. In this story, Yibum was the mechanism of Ruth and Naomi's survival. It doesn't always end up like this. Technically, a widow could not go on and marry just anybody in her life until her and her redeeming kinsman had gone through a ceremony called chalitza, which breaks the obligation. If, for example, the brother-in-law does not release that widow through chalitza, she's an agunah. According to the Center for Women's Justice, in Israel, the rabbinate deals with about 15 to 20 cases of chalitza per year. To make a widow go through this, that is a yikes to me. The book of Ruth has some profound lessons to teach us. It can and it should encourage us to care more collectively about the fate of women, of widows, of converts, of economically disadvantaged people, of immigrants in our communities. Ruth demonstrates how we, all of us, can stand by each other during times of deepest personal distress. That's why she merits to not only be the ancestor of King David, but have a whole Megillah named after her. May we all merit to live up to her incredible example. Chag Shavuot Sameach, everybody.